So send the sensation of dropping into your body. Get good at it. So there's like that exhale, like the allowing of the weight. Mental awareness tends to be what drives us forward for sure. And so in centering, you're trying to allow, feel, and then there's a lightness that comes when you truly allow. I mean, it's funny. Have you ever had those experiences where your mind says, if someone's like, "You okay? Yeah, I'm fine," but you really haven't actually taken a breath. You really haven't actually landed. And so in centering, you're developing a skill. The allowing part is a skill you want to be able to access throughout the rest of your life, like in different parts of your life, like all of a sudden immediately be able to go, oh, actually, I'm going to sink in to my own space in a way that is felt, not judged. So this centering thing's a life skill. And then the recognition that there's also a rise here. And then as you start to add asana, so asana is just something that overlays what's already happening. So like there's energy already coming through here in every direction. And then asana, the limb of asana, one of the 8 limbs, is trying to help you become more, and pranayama, trying to help you become more congruent with what's already happening. And so it lands through you better, that you become a better vehicle. Soften the skin on your forehead, around the temples, your jaw, the inside of your mouth. You are a manifestation of it, not a taker of it. You're looking for confluence. Hit down with your sitting bones. Connect through your feet. Lift the chest. Let the spaces inside of you inflate and become more full. Bring your hands into prayer if you can. Otherwise, keep them centered on your lap. Balance your head over your neck. The softness and the effort can be simultaneous. Let go of your day. Prepare yourself to do yoga. Good. And then release and lift your sternum up towards your chin and drop your chin over your sternum. but see this action as a form of increased discipline, right? So you increased boundary, more active. When you lift your sternum, your back ribs are going into your spine differently. So there's more structure. So you receive differently when your spine and rib cage are in this position. Notice your breath. Raise your head up with closed eyes. Open your eyes. So when I do that, and this is always especially when you live with like misalignment and all the stuff, different stuff that you and I are in different ways living with. Sometimes when I get really like in something like this, I start to recognize how asymmetrical everything is, right? Like I do take way more air into my right lung, right? Except only the bottom of my right lung, not the top. And I can feel that and I'm turned and my rib cage is twisted and all that stuff. And so there's this weird space where as you start to become aware of the way your body is, there's at first you become aware. And this, I still have different periods of time where I go through this, where I notice how much is wrong with my body, right? And it's really important at that point not to become judgmental and worry about it. Like, so the truth is, all we're doing is the fact that you're alive and kicking means everything's pretty good. And so what asana does, or aligning better, is takes what's good and maybe makes it a little bit better, right? You know, there are times in my life where I'd say I'm truly bad. But given what I've lived through and what you've lived through, we know what truly bad actually is. And it doesn't happen that often. Truly bad is not that common. You know, that's why when you go into the doctor, they say, what's your pain scale? And I always say something like a 3 or a 2, because I know what a 10 looks like, right? And feels like I actually know that, right? And so it sounds like I'm not in pain. It's like, no, I know what it could be. So I'm going to be pretty good here, right? And so again, as you straighten yourself out and try to feel equal side to side, and feel each sitting bone in each foot, what you're trying to do is feel the different parts of your body so the whole can become more full, right? That WHOLE, right? The whole can become more full. And then when I go back to my things where I collapse, right? There's a shrinking that occurs, like some of the spaces in me collapse, right? And so I'm going to realign again. Do this in your own body. Realign again, try to get it more lifted. And just notice the difference between when I try to get in sync and open my empty spaces. So for me, I have to get more open over here, right? In order to have it be more equal. I want to like track the sensation of what it is to have my spaces open. And then as I go back to the way I have to live most of my day, as I collapse back, that's what spaces feel like when they're collapsed, right? Then I'm going to reopen again, reorient, and make more space, the sensation of more space. And what's funny is that, and wonderful, is that when I'm more open here, I feel more open in my legs too, or in the parts of my body that I have a harder time accessing. And then the contrast, and I go back to the normal gravity position where I withstand gravity. Right here, I'm trying to get gravity to go through all of my spaces so I can rise. Right? So I'm just like noticing the difference. going like, dang, and yet I know I can't hold myself up this straight all the time. I would be really sore, and I would be like, I'd have to grip way too much. So what I want you to get is the difference. So you can check into your day when you need your spaces to be more full, right? When you need to tap into your own space, then learn how to do it in certain settings and then release. So there's this line from BKS Iyengar. So I've been trying to teach teachers, all sorts of subtlety that I teach you all the time. And there's this line from BKS Iyengar that I want to like have the practice we do now kind of emphasize is that, okay, so it's in a video that I watched for the first time when in the first year I was doing yoga. I can still remember the night, and I was with my yoga teacher, and the video is called Total Freedom. And it's a demonstration from BKS Iyengar back from like 1987 or something. And it's but there's a line in there that I've never forgotten, and I've used it as a lens through which to understand remember, I can't do all the poses that a quote able-bodied person can do. And it was lines like this that made me realize though what's really happening in asana, right? And so the line is, when my body's one, when I can't differentiate different parts, when my body's one, my mind breaks into pieces. Meaning that if this is just a big lump of clay, I'm going to have to use too much will, right? I'm going to have to push and grind, and that over time is going to break my mind into pieces, right? And then the flip side is when my body's in pieces, when I can recognize and differentiate different parts of my body, my mind becomes one. Right? And he calls that body in pieces and mind one, he calls that freedom. Right? And so if you think about what asana is doing as you practice it, it differentiates different parts of your body. And as you can do that, regardless of if you can control your body, regardless of if you can move in all the right ways, like I can't lift my leg up, right? If I can differentiate them, something happens to my consciousness that makes me feel free. Okay, so because I don't know if you've noticed, when you're in a lot of pain, you actually just collapse into a big lump, right? That's the protective thing, right? So sit up straight and tall again. And so just by any instruction, feeling your sitting bones and lifting your chest and stretching from the inner groin down to the inner knee, down to the inner heel, you're differentiating different parts of your body. That's part of what's happening, right? And that's part of why asana is transformative. It makes you differentiate what normally falls into a big mush and then release. And so, but there are different sensations you want to differentiate. There's the sensation of sitting static, like in the same position for too long. There's the sensation of movement. So that's part of why I do warm-ups like this. I want you to get the sensation of moving across your sitting bones. So go forward and back, right? Because I want you to feel where your sitting bones are, right? And also what it is to like shift gravity, right? What happens to your body as you do that? Because we're trying to pull and get the threads of the tapestry to be more distinguished, right? So I'm going back and forth. Whoa, I'm having a whole bunch of spasms today. All right, so back and forth. And then I'm going to go side to side. So I'm just going to keep moving. And I'm just noticing different parts of my body. Right? And then inhale and take your arm up. and then exhale it down, and then inhale, take your arm up, and exhale it down. On this next one, you're going to add distinguishing. So inhale, take your left arm up and push down through your right hip. And then back down, and then right hand up, left hip, and back down. And then left up, right hip, right foot, all together. So you're trying to differentiate in order to unify. If you don't differentiate, you can't truly unify with consciousness, right? You need to actually be able to tell the differences, right? And then take your arms wide. And so and take your legs wide. I'm trusting the dude to actually, that I'm gonna follow this idea that if I start to differentiate more, I'm gonna feel better. Because in a way, isn't that what like getting your blood pumping does too? You start to feel your heartbeat in your whole body. You start to feel it through your limbs, right? So now I got my legs wide and I'm just feeling that. And I'm gonna shift gravity here. No, not a full pose, just kind of get what it feels like to have my legs wide and move, right? So it's just like I'm just thinking of my body like I'm playing with Play-Doh. I'm trying to get more sensation through more of my body, right? Just by making it not be so complicated. Using movement, controlled movement, and bring your legs back together. Controlled movement to actually make there be distinguishing. So this time I want you to pull back on your knees and then go the other way. And try to do this to yourself, get a rhythm. So as you pull forward, your chest lifts. So you feel the sensation. Remember, you were trying to follow your body in pieces, right? So my hands are on my knees. I'm hitting back and my chest is lifting. And then I go the other way and I hit out this way and my chest collapses. I go back and forth. And now I want to make sure as I'm doing this back and forth in a rhythmic manner, because rhythm distributes awareness, right? I'm trying to make sure I stay connected to my feet, right? So I'm just going back and forth like this because I want there to be a separation between my mind, my body, my spine, pardon me, back bending and concaving, but connecting that to awareness in my legs, right? Because I want to get into more and more pieces so I can be more and more whole with meaning, right? We separate to become unified consciously. So I'm still going back and forth. And now I'm just doing this. And as I do it, instead of getting bored, I start to take in more information. So now I'm really paying attention to what it feels like for my hands to go over the skin of my legs. I'm wearing shorts, right? But even on your pants, like whatever you're wearing, like, so as you're doing all the other things, just keep noticing different things. Now I'm going to come forward and make my chest lift, but find my sitting bones and my heels. And then I'm going to go back. And then I'm going to come forward, feel my sitting bones, feel my feet, lift my chest. And now I'm going to try to broaden across my collarbones. And then back and do that again. Again, I'm just trying to add the parts, be more aware of the threads in the fabric, right? So I can appreciate the whole fabric. And I'm going back and forth. And so when I lift my chest and roll my shoulders back, I'm activating, right? When I release, something drops. And I make that into part of the pose. So I push against my legs and I roll my spine back. And then I do it again. And I try to find more, right? So and then back, and I'm going to come to the center. So what's interesting is, so, I've been for a long time, I've been trying to tell you in various ways that your brain, not your mind, your brain needs to be passive, right? In order to receive more information. So when I say, as I'm doing this back and forth, find more, I don't mean search for more. I mean receive more, which is different. So the way that body awareness, the way that the different threads, this is what's paradoxical about how asana is taught. I give you instructions and you think you're going from, like, imagine the instructions are stepping across a rock, stepping across rocks across a river, right? And so you think it's about stepping from one rock to another as you do the instructions. No, actually, it's you're receiving where they are, right? You have to be in a different mode. So you're not just, the instructions make you do, and your mind thinks, can I do them all? Over time, the way you realize the different threads to the fabric is to receive the threads and then notice the doing, right? So here, when we're about to do this again and go back and forth, do all the stuff I pointed out, but then go on your own, like receive more. Like I could tell you where to receive, right? Or way to try to open up to. But on this last few times, you do it. Like you figure out what extra you can add. I can tell you I'm adding not just my collarbones, but the space between my shoulder blades. And I'm feeling the change of the grounding of when I hit my knees in and coming forward, of my femur bone grounding me, and the extension that happens when I push my thighs away and come back. That's what I'm paying attention to. Figure out what you're going to pay attention to. There's so much happening, right? So I'm going back and forth, and I know I'm going to come forward this time. This one, coming out of the ground and rising your chest, matters. Good, and then release. So one of the transitions that I hope you are building in your yoga practice is the transition from something taking effort to something becoming powerful, right? So something becomes powerful when the effort isn't, the will it takes to do it isn't blocking the sense of wholeness that you get as you do it. Now, one of the movements you want to let become powerful, that in a big way, is this one, the rising up, the upward facing dog part of the forward lift here. This one, so I want you to take some time, right? Let me drop the thing a little bit here. Take some time to really think about this as not that, the ones that take too much effort, you can't feel your power as much. So I'm getting here, and then I'm really getting where my whole body activates. So I feel my hands on my knees, I feel my feet on the floor, I feel my sitting bones, I've got it already, and then I come into phase as I lift my sternum. And I want you to feel it as powerful, and then release. Right? So there's this feeling of a rise coming out of a deepened sense of grounding. And then up, and I'm going to just stay here for a second. Use my breath to expand my rib cage. Feel my sitting bones, feel my feet. And then release. I'm going to fall back into a sense of a little bit more peace. Then I'm going to do it again. Now I'm going to add, I'm going to roll my shoulder blades down, keep aware of my sitting bones and my feet, but really try to find the center of my sternum by finding everything else and moving everything else to propel the seat of consciousness forward. Good, and then release. Now, I don't know about you, but when I hold that for a while, I feel fatigue come pretty fast. So if you're not doing that pretty strongly, then you're not doing what I'm asking, right? Like it's like and what's interesting is you're holding and you're working hard, but you're also trying to keep the pose fluid. You're trying to feel, the pose never stops happening, right? Even though your effort is stronger. Again, part of differentiating different parts of the thread. So come forward, find the ground. I'm not asserting yet because I want to get my body in pieces. So I'm shifted forward. I'm noticing where my feet are. I'm noticing where my sitting bones are, where my front body is, where my back body is, if my jaw is soft, if my lips are together and my teeth are soft. I'm making there be pieces. And then I'm snapping into unified action by gathering all of me up, rolling my shoulders back, lifting my sternum, doing everything so my sternum is propelled from the earth into empty space. And I'm going to take a couple of breaths here. And I'm going to try to feel the whole by feeling the parts. Good. And then release. So for me, that took a whole bunch of effort. So when I start to feel, so now I take a picture when I've worked and held kind of hard there while trying to receive more. If I get asymmetrical fatigue, I know I'm not equally working my body in parts into the whole. So I get more fatigue down this side, which means my effort isn't balanced between the two. Right? So I'm using my fatigue as part of my map. So now I'm going to come forward again. I'm going to try to and this time I'm going to work hard again. I'm going to make everything come into the lift. And this time, so the front, my back body, front body, broadening across the column, broadening across my back ribs, rolling my inner groin in and down, feeling my feet. And then I'm going to take my head back too, but I'm going to try to lengthen my skin on the front of my neck, lengthening the back of my neck and looking up, rolling my shoulders back and doing everything I can to propel the center of my chest into space. Good. And then release. And I'm going to watch my fatigue again. Is it equal? No, it's not. Same issue. So now I'm going to do this upward facing dog one more time, but softer. So now I'm going to pull back on the effort. Hopefully, because I'm pulling back on effort, I'm going to allow a different part of me to come and lead the pose. The effort was important. Now I want a different part of me to come forward, to open. This is kind of the wisdom of being a little older, right? And then take the head back. Isn't this lovely? I'm not working so hard. And then release. But the question that keeps me awake at night, would I know how lovely the last one was if I hadn't done the others? No. It's not just the body needs to be in pieces. Your experience needs to be realized as separate and then integrated. Right? This is part of how Asana is an amazing teacher. Right? All right. So now I'm going to take my legs wide and watch the change again. So, I hope you know that where your base of your spine, the connection between the base of your spine and your legs matters. Right? And it's hard, especially for those of us that sit a lot. Right? Differentiating my legs from my spine and from my lower abdomen is actually quite hard, right? So I'm going to try to add some reference to my legs so I can feel the separation, and I'm putting down on my finger bones and out. I want to hit down through the sitting bones and lift my lower abdomen up to differentiate and then drop. Because when I come forward, there's a tendency for me not to be able to keep my legs separated from my torso, right? And that separation is an energy giver if you can keep them separated, right? So again, I'm gonna go down, hit my legs out, find my sitting bones, try to get the space to grow. Good, and then release. Bring my legs together. Right? So I'm better at it when I do one leg at a time. I can't do both, but I'm trying to get this leg down, my abdomen up, and then go the other way and I'm using my forearm on this side, down and get my abdomen up, right? And again, by doing one side at a time, I'm breaking my body into pieces, right? And so I'm doing that here. And then I'm doing it here and getting that lift, right? So now I want to make the best downward facing dog I can, but I'm going to do it by trying to open this space by using a back bending energy to separate the sensation of my legs from the sensation of my abdomen, right? So I'm going to come forward here a little bit. And I know I'm going to back bend, but I'm not going to be in love with this part of the back bend. I'm going to try to really pay attention to this part. So what I'm going to do is break it down into pieces, right? So I'm going to just do a little action here. Because once there's a lot coming into my brain, I have a hard time hearing the differences. So I'm just doing little actions here of getting downward pressure on my femur bone, upward lift of my lower abdomen, because the separation between these points are one of the hardest parts of separations in back bends. And I'm going to keep doing it again. So I'm getting this little beginning and then come forward to the balance point and then back and then open and then come through. Watch the gravity change. Come back, open, push, right? And come through. So on this next one, I'm going to go up and over the back of my chair, but I'm really going to try to get my energy of my legs going the opposite direction because I'm making more awareness at the crease. So I'm really pushing on my legs the opposite. So I'm grabbing my femur bone, pushing it away, and coming up, and using the reference of my hands and my legs to find the crease between my legs and my pelvis. And when I got that, then I'm going to open my chest and then release. So notice what I'm trying to do is create sensations from which I can differentiate different parts of my body. If I didn't do the stuff with my legs, like we usually do, and just do a back bend, yeah, I can start from here. I usually say go up and over the back of your chair. I make the emphasis be more up here, which is good. Now we're trying to make the separation and the distinction be lower. So my lift of my chest over the back of my chair is more connected to my femur bones, right? So again, we practice this little hop here, right? Then on this next one, I'm going to try to make it all smooth and get the separation before I open my chest and take my head back. and then release. So when I go to the final parts of the pose, right, they're happening in unity with the change in between my legs and my pelvis, with my legs and my torso. So here, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to go here. I'm going to really get this in. And then I'm going to go up and over, feeling my legs more. And then open the hood of the chest and do everything, making sure I've got my legs. And then release. And of course, there's always more instruction, right? So now I'm going to do the same thing. So usually when I instruct the back, when I do all that stuff, I tell you to extend from the inner groin to the inner knee down to the inner heel, right? So now we're going to do the same, like getting open. And then once you're separating the two, then I want you to add the effort down to the feet, right? So come back, you know, get it, get the feeling of opening here, up, over, and right here, ground the sitting bones and go down to the inner heel. And then feel the femur bones, get down with your sitting bones, open the chest and lengthen down to the feet as you take the head back. And then release. So I'm gonna take a little break. So for me, I don't know about you, is that all really easy? No, that was freaking hard, right? And so I'm just gonna, because I'm in my home practice, but I'm not, I'm in with you in a class, I'm gonna know that I need to restore here for a second, right? And I'm gonna try to restore in alignment. I'm just gonna remember that my head moves, right? Especially side to side, because we've been doing a lot of this in this plane, right? Even though I move in this plane, everything has to come with me, right? I'm having a lot of, in my body, a lot of compression in my neck on the right side. It makes me fatigue on the right side more. So I'm trying to like feel, right? You know, trying to go back and forth, right? So my head keeps light from my chest. It's not heavy. So a lot of times neck compression happens because you get heavy in your neck and you lean into your own chest, right? So you actually use this as like the holder of neck compression, right? And so activate between your shoulder blades so your head and your neck can actually lengthen. Activate the center of your chest, and notice, and then go back to how you hang out, wherever all the tension is, where you like, and you can see, you can feel your neck exploit a deadening sensation in your chest, right? So now open it again. Balance your head over your neck. Keep the neck getting fed by the center of the chest. Go down and feel where your sitting bones are. And then where your feet are. Dang. I'm learning something right now. I've been getting compression in my neck. Here I'm going back to it. Here it comes. Tumble goes the Lincoln Logs, right? And I lose space in my neck. Huh. I need to work my legs more, even though I'm paralyzed, in order to have a sensation of space in my neck and probably help the tingling in this arm, right? Dang. Parts to the whole, to the sensation of freedom, right? So I'm going to do it again. You got to trust that there's an inward truth here through the core of your spine that can create space. So I'm feeling my sitting bones, trying to feel where my feet are. I'm lifting my chest, broadening between my shoulder blades, all to lengthen my neck. Then I'm going to turn it and go from side to side. Holy cripes. I feel like I just found $20 in my pocket. Right? And now from this, I'm going to lengthen the back of my neck and then take it back. Sure, it collapses a little bit. So for me, my neck's been broken twice, so I have a lot of extra vertebrae in there. So calcium in there, so I'm gonna try to go down with my neck. And then release. So one of the things that I really like about when you start to feel at this core level, you start to understand better what some of the things you've been learning the whole time and why they are what they are. So go back to trying to feel the length in your neck by feeling your sitting bones, your feet, how they connect to your legs, how the chest needs to stay open. Right now, before we were going like this with that energy. But as you get the connection up through your spine and the chest is lifted, kind of makes sense that the chin drops down, that the length in the back of the neck and the lifting sternum help my boundary of my torso, helps me realize the container. And then raise your head up again and watch how gravity then changes your shoulders, right? So when I said, when we were centering, that you lift your sternum and drop your chin, and I use the word a little bit more discipline to your rib cage and spine. Now we're breaking apart what that means, right? So now feel your sitting bones, your base. Create the lift in your chest, the length in your neck, right? Feel all of that, what it does to your rib cage, and then drop your chin. Good, and then release. So remember, notice the things that maybe some of you do naturally, but what I was just doing that on purpose because I'm trying to differentiate the expansion of my sternum from the sensation of dropping my chin. So I kept my fingers on the center of my chest because I wanted the differentiation to help me find how those two actions are unified, right? So I'm going to do this. So I can tell you, if I'm behind the balance point here, and I lift my sternum and drop my chin, it's not the same. If I come forward, so I'm actually grabbing, because I have less balance than most of you, right? I'm like grabbing my chair and coming forward. Because if I just lift my sternum from here and drop my chin, it doesn't include my whole being. I don't get a sense of wholeness, right? So I'm grabbing my chair between my cushion. I'm getting this lifted. Now I'm going through the whole class, trying to feel my feet, my sitting bones, the rise, making sure that the lift in my chest helps support an extension in my neck. I'm keeping all of that, broadening between my shoulder blades, dropping my shoulder blades, lifting my sternum up and dropping my chin. Keeping my hand on my own sternum lightly to remind me to stay in my body. Good, and then release. I'm going to do it again because I'm not going to get bored with repetition. I'm going to learn from repetition, right? So I'm rocking back and forth because when I was holding that pose, I could feel myself getting a little static, a little too rigid. So I'm making sure I'm staying awake on my base and not getting lost in the effort of my sternum. So then I'm going to come right back into it. I'm going to make sure my neck stays long, supported by my base and the lift in my chest. And then I'm going to drop my chin. As I drop my chin, my shoulder blades go up and my sternum lifts. And I feel my legs. Good, and then release. So I'm taking so much time with this, right? And the whole class was about differentiating different parts of your body. For those of you who've been doing yoga, this is one of the three main bandhas, right? But it was about your whole body. It's Jadhara Bandha, and it's like the yogis from before us think that this connects and locks a whole bunch of our energy into a fullness, our subtle energy into a fullness. Have I mastered this position? No. Have I been practicing it for 31 years? Yes. Can I stay patient? That's whether I'm a good student or not how well I do it, right? It's can I receive what it takes to realize how much complexity there is in something that seems simple. Because if I can get some of the complexity of it and go back from the differentiation of parts of my body to a sensation of wholeness, I am more awake. I am more connected. And that's the promise that the yogis are making, right? So here I'm going to ground again. So I'm going to find my sitting bones. I'm going to make sure they're awake by moving a little bit so they don't get dull, right? I'm going to feel it from side to side because I want my base to be awake. I don't want there just to be heaviness in my base. I want there to be lightness. Then I'm going to come into the position. I'm going to let the lightness keep me long. So feeling my feet and my sitting bones and lengthening my spine and filling my chest and noticing what I need to do with my shoulder blades to do that. All that happens is my sternum starts to come forward into the world. And then I'm going to drop my chin, keeping the distinction between here and the drop. And I'm going to find where there's tension in my body and try to make the effort stay, but the tension leave by changing my alignment. And I'm going to notice my breath into each nostril, into each lung, reaching down to each sitting bone, touching each heel. I'm going to exhale as if my back ribs are pushing forward. Good. And then raise your head up. So if you get to a position in asana, and then when you try to layer in your breath, and you're working so hard that the breath is actually extra strained, then for that day, you're working too hard physically. Over time, you're going to be able to hold the position and breathe more smoothly. And now, this bandha is the cornerstone of the queen of all yoga poses. Take this seriously. It's important for fullness, right? And the thing is, it's like a huge field. It's not a small field. If you don't start to get that all these actions are a big, as you differentiate more parts of your body into the action, the field gets more free, not less free, right? And so the mind has trouble with all the complexity. Your habit does not. So I'm going to just do a quick one without making it all so conscious, and like try to feel the whole class. Make it lighter again. Not so much. Just feel your way into what you've earned. And then raise your head up. So glad someone said, when your body's in pieces, your mind can be one. I could have lived my whole life and have never seen that. That's part of the field we live in. It's way bigger than it looks, right? So start to allow again, because I'm practicing some symmetry because where Shavasana is coming. So I'm feeling stuff to make sure I know that my body's in pieces. Right? And then I'm going to find center again. And then I'm going to allow my chair to hold me up. I'm going to feel symmetry. Shavasana. Skin on my face. My jaw releasing. Softening my temples. Releasing the skin on the inside of my mouth. Even letting go of my teeth and gums. Body in pieces. Unity emerging onto my awareness. Feel your sitting bones and your feet. The empty spaces being supported. Because you're in pieces to receive the whole. Feel your breath. Don't change it. Thank your body. Think it again. Start to bring yourself back. Slightly deeper inhalation. Slightly longer exhalation. As you bring yourself back, when you open your eyes, lift your chest slightly as you open your eyes. And then keep the chest lifted and close your eyes. Then open them again. It's funny, a lot of us don't keep our chest open because it makes us feel vulnerable. I don't know, it's probably just the opposite. Probably makes us stronger. You just have to feel more. Oh well. Bummer, huh? Right? No, actually, feeling's pretty much the gift. It's whether you can feel without being attached too much to it. Right? You can let things play through you. I want to feel everything. I've been listening to the Over stories. Anyone read that book? Man, I just finished the one about the vet who was mad about clear cutting. I'm like I'm sad about what we do to trees today. So I'm gonna open here. I'm not gonna do this to feel sad. I'm gonna open. Say, damn it, we should live in the time frame of trees, not 5-year plans or quarterly earnings. Right. All right, hands together. Namaste. Spirit in me bows to the spirit in you. I hope you have a good week. My plan is to be back here next week. I hope you join us.